Welcome to the Flourish.Academy podcast. My name is Heather Lautinen, and I'm joined by my good friend Mara Chick. We both enjoy reading books, and our mission is to help others grow professionally and personally. But we noticed that we recommend our favorite books to our friends and colleagues. They didn't really have the time to read them.
That they should just do it.
They should.
They should. So on this podcast, we do the reading so you can focus on your business. We will give you a breakdown on the books that we explore, offer differing viewpoints, and tips on how to take action.
We are still working our way through the compound effect with Darren Hardy, and I believe we are in chapter 4.
Yes, we are in chapter 4, which is all about momentum. So just going straight into the book, just to summarize. Now remember, Darren calls momentum the big Mo. So whenever you hear that, he means momentum. So how do you get Big Mo to pay a visit? You build up to it. You get into the groove, the zone, by doing things we've covered so far, making new choices based on your goals and core values, putting those choices to work through new positive behaviors, repeating those healthy actions long enough to establish new habits, building routines and rhythms into your daily disciplines, and staying consistent over a long period of time. Oh, that consistency, which leads us right into what we're going to talk about.
Perfect. The power of consistency from the book. I've mentioned that if there's one discipline that gives me a competitive advantage, it's my ability to be consistent. Nothing kills Big Mo quicker and with more certainty than a lack of consistency. Even good, passionate, and ambitious people with good intentions can fall short when it comes to consistency. But it's a powerful tool you can use to launch the flight toward your goals. Think of it like this. If you and I flew planes from Los Angeles to Manhattan, but you took off and landed in every state in between, while I flew straight through, even if you went 500 miles per hour in the air and I only traveled at a rate of 200 miles per hour, I'd still beat you by a big margin. The time and energy it takes for you to repeatedly stop and start and get back to momentum makes your trip at least 10 times longer. In fact, most likely you wouldn't even make it. You'd run out of fuel or energy, motivation, belief, will at some point. It's far easier and requires a lot less energy to take off once and maintain a regular speed, even if slower than most everyone else along the way. Wow. Consistency is my favorite thing. And when he said that about it's the one discipline that gives him an advantage, I literally could have written that sentence. Because if there's one thing I can do, I might not be the smartest or the brightest, but if you tell me what to do or I know what to do, I can do it consistently.
Okay, this goes back to like our mentoring too. When I first started my journey, Heather and I have known each other like 5.5 years now.
I think so.
Yeah. And I first came to her because I wanted to learn photography and setting up my business, and look at us now. But
interesting how that took a turn.
Heather would give me these practices and here's what you need to do. And you better darn well believe I was so consistent. She told me what to do and I did it. And I'm like, every day I'll execute, and I would show her photos and she'd be like, okay, here's what you need to do now. And I would go do it. Like if there was one thing you like ground into my head was that
drilled into your brain.
Just be consistent, Mara, and it will work. I mean, even if it's like posting on social media so people are continuing to see your name out there, doing what you're doing, like post every day. Post a couple times a day.
That's really the only marketing strategy you can have, is to be consistent. And you were a great student, by the way. Oh. Anything I suggested, you did it. But I think you were smart enough to recognize why or the importance. But let me ask you this. What if there was something I said to you, I need you to do this, I need you to do it every day, or at least consistently, and you didn't understand why? Would you have still done it?
Coming from someone I trusted, yeah, I think so. But if someone I didn't know was like, you should do this every day, I don't think I would have believed them.
Right.
Because they don't have any experience to back it up. Like I could have looked at you and said, okay, well, she built this, so she must know something. I mean, you must know something, right? I mean,
a little.
I hope.
About a few things, right?
I'm not so sure about that. But I probably would if I didn't know what your reasoning was. And you do that a lot in boot camp. Like, you don't tell us what the reasoning... Remember when you made us
do it.
Go on the ropes course, and you weren't going to tell us how actually to get across without falling over, because there is a way.
Right.
And I held on for dear life because I was like, this proves something. I know it. And I was not.
You knew
fall.
there was a point.
There was a point.
Oh, that was a good exercise too, because you're right. You didn't know how to get across. You knew there was a better way, but you had to struggle to figure it out. That was really good.
So it taught me a lesson, and like one simple like exercise like that was like just the power of perseverance and getting through and not giving up. So I would have believed you if you said do this and I was like, she's crazy. I mean, there probably were times where I was like, I would come home and I'd be like, Tony, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I'm not doing that.
I'm not for everyone, for sure. But you were very determined and you had a goal. And your goal was to leave your corporate job and start your own business. And that goal was extremely important to you. So you looked at every potential avenue to get there and you just did it.
I did it.
Even if it was small and seemingly insignificant. That's it.
See, there's a trend here.
Yeah.
And
the consistency, I mean, there's consistency in things like your health and your fitness and exercising. There's consistency in saving money. There's consistency in putting effort into your relationships with your spouse or important people in your life. Consistency is everything. The problem is the first time you do it, it doesn't look like it matters.
Yeah.
So you do it over and over. That's why consistency is so critical.
I mean, I think about you and Craig in the shower. I mean, not... This is why I should not be on air.
In a previous episode...
In the last episode...
We were talking about routines.
And Heather and Craig shower every morning together. And I just think about, it doesn't seem like anything for like the first week, but think about it 19 years later, all the time you two have shared together, like just talking and being with each other every morning.
Zero interruptions. There are no children. There are no phones. There's no radio, TV, no noise, nothing. It's us connecting and talking.
And I think that's great.
Every day.
That you have that time together to just, because how often do people come home? Like my husband comes home from work and I'm like, oh, I follow the Heather method. Hi, honey. Oh, how was your day?
Even if yours was terrible.
And I'm like, where's my sheets? No.
Right.
Where's my food? But, and he'll just come in and he'll talk to me for a little bit, but then he gets right on his phone and I'm like, hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
I have not spoken to anybody today. Like, help me out, mister.
Yeah.
So like I think a lot of parents are like into their phones. And I was at Panera last week. I know this is a little off topic. I'm sorry, but
that's fine.
There was a guy there with his daughter sitting right next to us, and he was on his phone the entire time. Didn't look up from the phone to like talk to her, and she was like, Daddy, look at this, Daddy. Oh. And the daughter was like begging for attention, and he was just...
Like a child? How old?
Oh, I think she was probably like 6 or 7. Oh. And he was just on his phone, and I'm like, I'm so tempted to say something to him, like...
Wake up.
Like, hello, she's spending time with you. Like, I would have killed to spend time with my dad like that, you know? So... I just feel like we're so connected to our phones that like we miss the interaction. So that consistency of constantly interacting with people is very important to me.
And make it a routine. Yeah. If you're consistent, you make it a routine, then it's something that strengthens your relationships over time.
Yes.
And then 19 years later, you
can look at it and be like, wow,
that made a difference. Yeah.
Like, and solid.
It's very solid. And that made a huge difference. That's really good.
Oh, okay. That was a lot.
That was consistency.
To digest.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of talking further about consistency and how when you stop doing things.
Oh, right.
That we kind of lose the momentum and the progress that we've made. So back into the book. Miss only a couple weeks of anything, workouts at the gym, affectionate gestures toward your spouse, or the phone calls that are a part of your prospecting routine. And you don't just lose the results those 2 weeks would have produced. It's that all you lost. Mm-hmm. It's that if that's all you lost, which is what most people assume, not much damage would be done. But by slacking off for even a short time, you killed momentum. It's dead. And that's a tragedy.
That is a tragedy.
Winning the race is all about the pace. Be a tortoise. That's the person who, given enough time, will beat virtually anybody in any competition as a result of positive habits and behaviors applied consistently. That'll pull the mojo in your momentum and keep it there. That'll put the mojo in your momentum.
Right.
And keep it there.
Making the right choice, holding to the right behaviors, practicing perfect habits, staying consistent, and keeping your momentum is easier said than done, especially in the dynamic constantly changing and always challenging world we share with billions of other people. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of our books always talk about like Michael Jordan, a lot of sports people, right? And there's the book I was reading last night, I think it's Mindset. Yeah, about the two differing mindsets.
Carol Dweck?
Yes.
Yes.
And they talk about Michael Jordan a lot in that book and how, you know, he was like kicked off, I think, his high school football team.
Oh, he was awful.
He was terrible.
Yeah.
And he said, well, no one's going to beat me. I'm going to try harder than everybody else. And that's a guy who built momentum through years of practice and dedication to his sport. Like, that momentum didn't happen. Like, what if he would have just stopped? Like,
said,
in the middle,
okay.
it's okay, I tried and it didn't work. Like, all those years of effort just went away. It's dead if he just stopped. But he kept going and pushing himself. Consistent routine.
And then he's Michael Jordan.
And then he's Michael Jordan. We're all like, oh, I want Jordans. Oh,
Right.
it's Michael Jordan. Oh, he's the greatest athlete of all time. We wouldn't know who he was
If he had given
if
up.
he had given up.
But it was commitment. Commitment to consistent routines, to making himself better. So don't give up. Persevere. You had said this a moment ago. Perseverance is key here. Just persevere. It's going to be hard. Just do it anyway. Don't rely on your feelings. Make yourself do it.
And get it done. I mean,
Just get it done.
Can we just stop complaining about things and do
I
it?
have a rule in my house. I said the other
no.
day to my children, I don't want to hear complaining. I don't want to hear excuses. You know what excuses are? Lies. Excuses are lies.
She even says that to me, and I'm not her child.
Yeah. Say that to everyone. I mean, you say, I don't have time. Lie.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have the money. Lie. You buy your coffees. You spend money on what you want to spend money. People will say to me, you know, we're so into these books, and they'll say, I can't afford the book. Did you just buy a coffee at Starbucks? 2 of those would have bought this book.
I just spent $230 on books.
On books.
On
Because
Amazon.
that's what you choose
That's
to invest
my education.
in. Yeah.
I said to Heather, that's what I decide is my education now, is my book reading. And I'll feed my habit. It's a good habit.
Right. There are worse habits to have than book reading. And you're consistent about it. And you plow through these books because of your dedication to your routine, which we talked about in the previous episode. By the way, it's pretty important to listen to these episodes in order.
Yes.
We go through
we
go through these in order, or you wouldn't understand why Mara thinks about my husband and I in the shower.
Okay. For the record, you're the one that's always telling me about this stuff. I don't need to know.
Is this an important habit? You know, and we had also spoken maybe 2 episodes ago about the importance of greeting your spouse kindly when they come home from work and, you know, paying attention to them and not complaining about what was terrible about your day, but just let me hear what was great about your day. It's a mindset.
Yes.
It's always putting yourself in what can I do to elevate our moods or the situation? Well, say something positive. Don't complain. If you want to complain, shut your face.
Well, you know, when Tony, I shared in an earlier episode that my husband suffers from depression, and it's true, like clinical depression, like something just goes off in his head. But then when he's on, it's like a manic phase, like everything's great and happy, and let's do this and let's do that, and we can conquer the world. Okay, it's great. I would like to find a happy medium.
Of course, right.
But during one of his like up times, you know, I would share when I was miserable at my corporate job, I would like complain a lot to him. And he actually said to me once, he's like, you have nothing positive to say. And I'm like, wait, this is coming from the depressed guy? I must really be complaining.
Seriously.
So I'm like,
the depressed
guy says I'm complaining.
That's fantastic.
So isn't that great?
Eye-opening.
So I was like, wow, I have to stop. So I stopped using my husband as my sounding board because I would be like, you know, people at work are really pissing me off and I'm just going to complain to him about it because he's the closest person to me. And I really had to make an effort to stop that. That was a bad habit because it was just setting then our conversations into this negative place. And I want to go to a positive place with my husband, you know, and then he feels like he doesn't want to talk to me because I'm just going to sit there and complain.
This is a fantastic
We learned
example.
a lesson from the depressed guy.
Yeah, that was really good. People will often say things like, well, I just need to get it off my chest, to which I say, false. You can work it through and spin it and reframe it positive in your mind. You don't need to get anything, quote, off your chest. You just need to reframe it.
Yeah.
Because getting it off your chest or complaining about, do you really think that unloading on someone else is going to help? Does that free you from it? I
No,
think
and it
puts you
might
in
even
more.
bring the other person down
Correct.
because they're like, oh, well, what? Okay,
It makes it
my
worse.
Gosh, look at all this drama going on over there, and then you suck people into your, your issues and your drama, and that's not like a healthy mindset for them either, So if you need to get it out, let it out to yourself. Like have a chat with yourself and talk. I mean, I talk out loud all the time to myself.
I do too.
I'm like, Mara, come on,
Get
pull
it together.
together.
Yeah, get it together.
So yeah, you don't need to be
No.
bringing people into the
No.
negativity of your mind,
This is wrapping up chapter 4 of the compound effect. So let's talk about a strategy or some action steps that you can take in order to develop this consistency in this routine. I would like you to write down one area of your life which you are not consistent enough. Make a declaration to stay steadfast in your new commitment to consistency. So one area of your life that could benefit from consistency.
And this just hit me. So I wrote a blog post for my blog a couple weeks ago about like a contract with myself. So I'm very you should know by now if you've been listening to the other episodes, I'm very body positive, self-love advocate. I wrote a contract with myself that says every morning I will wake up and say, "Good morning, Mara. You are beautiful. I love you." Like it's really hard to not get off on a good foot when someone loves you that much, you're like, "I love you." And I don't mean it from a conceited way. It's just, and so if you're struggling with consistency, then write a contract with yourself and sign it and put it up so you see it every day. Like, I think that's a good idea.
You know what? That reminds me about how important it is to watch your self-talk and make sure that if it's negative, that you change it to the positive. Most people default to negative self-talk. So if you can stop that, catch it, whoa, I'm not speaking kindly to myself, and then reframe it and say something nice to yourself, it can make a huge difference.
Big difference. What you say to yourself, because you talk to yourself the most. I mean, constantly. So your thoughts are either taking you positive place or negative place, and I'd rather go to a positive
for sure
place,
I was reading in one of Brian Tracy's books recently. He said every time you walk through a door frame or a threshold, you should say to yourself, "I like myself. I'm responsible," meaning I'm in control. So I talked to my kids and my husband, and I said, every time you walk through the door, I want you to say, "I like myself. I'm responsible. I'm in control." So sometimes I switch it up and say, "I'm awesome. I like myself. I'm in control. I'm responsible." You don't realize how many doorways you walk through in a day until you start doing that. But you do it, and it changes the chemistry of your brain. They've studied it. I read all of these studies where they measure certain chemicals in your brain and the feel-good chemicals.
Yes.
Yeah, if you say that repeatedly, that you literally change how you view the world.
I mean, I feel it. I say this all the time. When I feel like when I'm talking good to myself, it releases all of those. It's like, what is that chemical?
Endorphins or serotonin?
It's endorphins and serotonin.
Yeah.
Endorphins. It's the same feeling after I get done with a run. Like I
exercise.
feel like so good.
Yeah.
So, is there one area of your life that you need to be more consistent?
If you would have asked me this exactly 1 year ago, I would have said, absolutely, it's my health, it's exercise. But since making that commitment, I haven't really missed a day. Probably in a year, I've missed a handful of days to exercise. I exercise 7 days a week. So I've made that commitment and I've done it and I've been consistent. So periodically what I'll do is I'll take stock overview of where I'm at, and I'll look at an area that needs attention. So last year it was my health. The year prior to that, it was my QuickBooks with my business. I always talk about QuickBooks. My books are in order. They're beautiful, but it's just a struggle for me. Yeah. So finances. So a few years ago I did that. So when you do that, it starts to shift to harder things, more deeper things, because, relationships, obviously, finances, health, those are the big three. Spirituality for me. I love Jesus. So making a commitment to pray and read my Bible. I could do a little bit better in the Bible reading department for sure. I think that's an area that could really benefit from some consistency for me. In fact, that should be the area that I write down that I'm not consistent enough is my Bible reading, because I tend to gravitate towards the books we read when really everything I need is in the Bible.
Even the books we read tell us to read other things. You can't always read these books.
Right.
You have to switch. Even like a fiction, is that? Those, like,
yeah.
fiction
Okay.
books.
So they do say that periodically you
Yeah.
should read something for entertainment. I allow myself to do that once per year. There's a series I read, and once a year it's Jack Reacher. Mom and I read it together, and Lee Child comes out with a new book once a year. So that's what I read, and it does. And actually, I was reading, somebody recommended one of those books to learn how to write better, which was kind of funny. But yeah, you should certainly switch it up. What about you? Do you have something that you could, a habit that you need to make more consistent?
I think my exercising needs to be a little more consistent. I mean, I'm still coming back from back surgery, so I have to be a little sporadic now with it, but I really want to get to a consistent spot. I used to run like 10 miles 5 times a week, like years ago.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. I can never get back to that, but I want to get back to some consistency in working out. I also want to get more consistency with my relationships with my friends. Like, I feel as a business owner, we're sometimes very secluded and isolated because we're so, especially when you're a solo entrepreneur, you only have a couple people that you work with. You get so focused on the business and what you're doing and how you're going to grow, where you're going to take it, that we forget we need to build relationships with people that aren't our clients. You know what I mean? So my best friend lives in upstate New York. So she's not someone I see often, but we only talk like every 4 or 5 months. But we pick up right where we left off. But I miss having that, like she's involved in my daily life or knows week to week what's going on. So I really want to try to work on some consistency there. So I'm going to put that on my list.
Relationships.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Hey, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a particular area that you want to work on, leave it in our comments so we can see.
I would love to hear it.
I would too. I'm curious where people struggle or where they think they need to be more consistent. It would just be interesting to see.
Yeah, and then I can figure out what books I need to read next, because apparently $230 at Amazon
was not enough books. You need more books.
My gosh.
How many were in that order?
23.
23
So that's not bad. I mean, like, that's like $10 a book.
No, the price is fine. It's just a lot of books.
Okay, well, I'll get through them. You want to bet? How long do you think it's going to take me?
23 books.
Yeah.
Well,
but remember, I still only have 20 from like my earlier order last month.
So you have about 40 books.
So I have about 45 books I need to get through.
Can you do a book a week? That's always been my goal, is a book a week.
Oh, yeah, I could get through more than a book a week.
All right. Well, then I don't know how many weeks are left in this year, but you'll
So by the end of the year, you want all those books read?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine.
Deal.
Done. Deal.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening as we end this episode. Heather, do you want to tell everyone how they can support our podcast?
Absolutely. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please like, share, leave a review. And if you prefer video, you can also watch and subscribe to us on the YouTube. Just go to Flourish.Academy.tv. And if you like the content, hey, do us a favor and share it with your friends. Post it on social media. That way we can reach and help more people. And if you want to purchase this book or any of the books that we discuss, please use the link below. It's our Amazon affiliate link, and it just helps to offset some of the costs associated with the podcast.
Oh, yeah, that Amazon. Still love you, Amazon, even though you just took $230 some.
I mean, you literally placed that order in between episodes. Done.
I can't help it. All right, everyone, thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode.